That Truck Series race I just watched has got to be the most wackiest Truck Series race I have ever seen in my entire life. And no, I am not exaggerating. That was the craziest truck race I've ever seen. So many wrecks in this race at the end of it. The best cars basically getting taken out in the big one that took place. The only thing that did not happen in this race was rain, which thank God we didn't have that, or an animal coming out on the racetrack, because if that would have happened, we would have completed it. It felt like it was a full moon race, because this race was absolutely crazy. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to another video. I just got done watching the Truck Series race at Darlington Raceway, the first of 3 races this weekend, and the throwback race for the Truck Series. We're going to go ahead and talk about the race tonight. So, early in the race, there actually was a few cautions early in the race. The first caution actually came out, I think, on lap like 10 or something. I can't remember exactly everything that happened in this race. The first actually thing we're going to talk about is Norm Benning. Norm Benning was already going a lap down, like 6 or 7 laps in the race, and John Nemechek got slowed up, and Austin Hill, and I believe another guy got past him, I think it was Ben Rose, if I'm not mistaken, ended up passing him. I love Norm a lot, don't get me wrong, but Norm Benning should not be going that slow in the racetrack, and I think NASCAR did the right thing by parking him later in the race, because he went 2 laps down by lap 13. The first incident also happened was Corey Roper as well. He got into the outside wall, had basically a cut tire, but he came down pit road for the competition. Caution came out. Then we went a few laps in, and there was a lot of chaos that started happening in the middle of the pack. The next accident I remember happening was actually, I think it was Stuart Friesen, if I'm not mistaken. He actually I think he spun going into turn number 1, if I'm not mistaken, but he basically was able to recover and bounce back in the race until the end of the race when he got involved in a wreck later in the evening. And then Chris Wright, I think it was Chris Wright, if I'm not mistaken, and can't remember the other driver, he got involved in a wreck, but he and someone else got involved in a wreck early in the race as well. But then on the final restart as well, Ben Rhodes, who really had a fast truck early in the race, he actually ended up kind of falling back farther to back up to Act 18 because apparently he had a tire that was going down because he had a leakage in the tire because the tire basically got punctured. That's why he fell back to 18. I was watching, I'm like, what is going on with Ben Rhodes? And I see him, I'm like, wow, Ben Rhodes had a tire go down. So that was what was going on with Ben Rhodes. But coming out the final corner, I thought John Hunter was going to end up passing Todd Gillen for the win in Stage 1, but he actually was not able to catch him. And Todd Gillen, I believe this might be the first or second time Todd Gillen's won the stage this year, but Todd Gillen came off the final corner, and he would end up winning Stage 1 in this race. Stage 2 went a lot more straightforward throughout. There were a few cautions and incidents that ended up taking place in stages or 2, but John Nemechek pretty much dominated. The main one that ended up happening, I believe, was with Chase Purdy's situation, where Chase Purdy, he got a little sideways going in a corner, going up into turn number 1, if I'm not mistaken, and he got into the outside wall, bringing out, I think, one of the only cautions that happened in Stage 2. But in Stage 3, just went straightforward, and John Nemechek came out the final corner and won Stage 2 in this race. Stage 3 is where everything got really, really interesting, and there was a lot of more cautions that ended up happening in this race. The incident really brought out basically there was a lot of incidents started happening around 50 laps to go. You had guys wrecking, quite a few wrecks that were taking place. The one incident where the big one ended up happening was Tanner Gray, who got a little sideways going off the front stretch. I think it was actually got turned by Ryan Truex. Then he basically tried to shoot down, got shot down to the bottom of the track. And then Akinari Ogata, who led a lap tonight for Rayon Brothers, and I can't remember, I think it was, I can't remember exactly who it was, but got into him. I think it was Akinari Ogata and Timmy Hill, actually, if I'm not mistaken. Both of those guys, they got involved in that crash. They would basically get involved, and unfortunately, Akinari Ogata and Tanner Gray. Tanner Gray was having a decent run overall. And then before that, Timothy Peters actually spun with around 40 laps ago to bring that caution out. There was a lot of strategy happening in the race. The big one we're going to talk about now. This big one is where everything in the complexion of this race basically got shaken up. So on the ensuing restart, John Nemechek and Corey, the 2 best trucks in my opinion throughout the race. Basically, Austin Hill and I can't remember who was behind him, jacked up both of them. They both turned into the outside wall. Then Austin Hill turns, and everybody and their mother gets involved in the wreck. Austin Hill was involved in the wreck. David Gillen was involved in the wreck. Zane Smith was involved in the wreck. Haley Deegan was involved in the wreck, among a lot of other drivers that were involved. BJ McLeod was involved in the wreck, among many others that were involved in the big one. There were so many cars that were involved in this big one. And because of this, the people that end up taking advantage of this were Ben Rhodes, who had multiple tires go down throughout the race. He actually had to go to tail end of the longest line at this point because he basically came out pit road while pit road was closed at the time, and that ended up turning this race really upside down with that big one because everything then got really nuts as he got farther in the race. Then he on ensuing restart after NASCAR decided to basically take 2 laps off the race with around 20 laps going to the ensuing restart. Parker Kligerman, who was also involved in that big crash, he actually crashed in Stuart Friesen really, really hard. They back in the outside wall, and they both would really be out of contention this race. Stewart tried to get back on the racetrack, but unfortunately there was really nothing they could do, and that would take both of them out of the race. We then go back racing a few laps ago, and Sheldon Creed actually would get the advantage over Ben Rhodes on the ensuing restart, but then Danny Bone, he would actually spin off coming in out of turn 2, and he would bring out the second to last caution of this race. And then we go back racing with around 2 laps to go into the race, and Sheldon Creed was able to get the advantage away from guys like Ben Rhodes. There was a stack up. Carson Osvar had a really strong truck tonight. He had issues we'll talk about here later in this race review, but he had some issues late in this race, or around 30 laps ago. He had a really fast truck tonight. Basically, he made a move to the inside 3 wide, and on the white flag lap, on down the backstretch, the final caution would come out. Hailie Deegan would spin. I think she may have had a flat tire from potentially because she got, like I said, she got involved in the big rush. She turned into the inside wall, and she would bring out the final caution of this race. And coming off the final corner under caution, Sheldon Creed came off the final corner and won tonight's race. Congratulations to Sheldon Creed. Sheldon Creed also wins $50,000 tonight since he was the Triple Truck Challenge. Needless to say, Sheldon Creed did not have the best truck all night, but he was right there at the end of the day, and with all the craziness that happened, I think he had one of the best trucks later in the run. Again, it was such a crazy and chaotic race that at this point, anybody could win. Ben Rhodes could have won this race. Anybody could win this race, but coming off that corner, Sheldon Creed was able to hold off Ben Rhodes and score the win tonight. So huge congratulations to Sheldon Creed on also becoming the first non-Toyota to win this year, and the first driver to win that wasn't Kyle Busch Motorsports since Ben Rhodes won at the Daytona Road Course earlier this year. This year's been dominated by Toyotas, but this is the first time that a non-Toyota won, and they honestly should have won tonight. So let's go ahead and go through the results of this race. So Sheldon Creed won tonight's race. This is his first win of the year. He's locked class. Congratulations to Sheldon Creed. Ben Rhodes finished second. He was my pick coming in event. I really thought he was going to have the win later in the race. He didn't have the best truck overall in my opinion. He looked really strong early in the race, but he had to bounce back through a lot of stuff. But he gets back and finishes second. Good run for him. Carson Osvar had an absolutely really good performance tonight. I really overall he had the best truck that could compete against a guy like John Hunter Nemechek in this race. But unfortunately what happened to him was the sky certs came out the car, which helped him basically not get involved in the big one that ended up happening. But I think this took him completely straight out of contention in this race, because if that doesn't happen, I think he has a shot to beat John Hunter Nemechek later this evening. He have a shot to win the race. But he gets a third place run. Carson Osvar is a real deal. He's a very talented driver. Matt Crafton finished his fourth solid run for Matt Crafton. I think he also got involved in the big one too, but he bounced back to top 5. And Grant Enfinger, who really was not that fast most of the evening, he got through the big one too, and he finished 5th tonight. Great run at the end of the day for Grant Enfinger. Johnny Sauter finished his 6th. Johnny Sauter, another guy who's been kind of having a solid comeback year so far this year. He finished 6th, strong run for him. Timmy Hill, despite getting involved in a big run, ends up finishing 7th. That's absolutely nuts and absolutely wild. He got a 7th place finish tonight. That's absolutely crazy and absolutely nuts. John Hunter Nemechek finished 8th. I think he honestly had the best truck in the field, no question about that. He had the dominant truck throughout the night, led the most laps throughout the evening, but after that big one that took him out, he really never had a shot, but he was making some moves in this race that were really, really impressive. I honestly wanted him to win the race. Honestly, he had the best truck overall when that big wreck happened. I thought it was over for him, but he bounced back to top 10 runs, so at least he got a top 10 tonight, which is really nice to see. Austin myself finished 9th. Austin myself honestly was not that bad, to be honest with you. He kind of ran around that 11th to 15th place range. He got a little bit better than where he honestly should have finished. But again, he's honestly right outside of the playoffs right now. He's like 11th or 12th in the standings right now. So he's having a solid year so far, definitely for sure for Austin myself. He finished his 9th tonight. Saw a run for Austin myself. And finishing 10th tonight is Jordan Anderson. Jordan Anderson gets the top 10 with all the chaos. I think this is the second top 10 that Jordan Anderson has had this year. Good run for Jordan Anderson tonight. Ryan Truex, who actually had some issues too in this race, he finishes 11th in tonight's race. Ryan Reed, who made his return to the NASCAR Truck Series, he ended up running top 10 some of the race, was looking better as the runs went on. He got a 12th place finish. Maybe GMS picks him up for some more races this year. Who knows? Austin Hill, who really was one of the big causes of the wreck, he finishes 13th tonight. 14th place goes to Tyler Ankin. Todd Gillen had a really solid night until the end. Got involved in the big one. He finishes 15th in tonight's race. Zane Smith finished at 16th. Eric Darnell, who another guy who made his return, he finishes in the top 20, gets 17th place finish. Hey, that's pretty good to be honest with you. 18th place for Danny Bone, 19th finish for Timothy Pierce, and Hailie Deegan finishes 20th after. She really wasn't that great, to be honest with you. She finishes 20th in tonight's race. Bailey Kerr finished 21st, 22nd for Spencer Boyd. Corey Heim finishes 23rd, but Corey Heim honestly was another driver like Carson Osvar who really surprised me. in a really, really good way. He absolutely should have honestly had a shot to contend for one or not get a top 5 this evening. He was really, really impressive to watch this evening. He was working his way through the front. He fell back early in the race, kind of almost outside the top 20, but his truck got really, really good as the runs went on, and he looked really, really solid. It's a shame he really didn't get the finish he deserved because he honestly deserved a top 5 finish, even a top 3 finish tonight. He was really, really solid. And he's going to run later this year. I think he's running in a couple weeks. I think it may be a Circuit Americas, if I'm not mistaken, so he'll be running here later this year. But yeah, it's a shame that he didn't get the finish he deserved, but I hope that he gets more opportunities. And maybe he'll eventually become the driver of Calvin Motorsports. If Chandler Smith doesn't do as good, he might end up becoming a driver. If John Nemechek goes up the cup here really soon, he might become the driver. We'll have to see what happens. Jennifer Jo Cobb gets a top 25, all things considered. Stuart Friesen finishes 25th. Parker Kligerman finishes 26th. 27th place for Chandler Smith, 28th place for David Gillen, 29th place goes to Spencer Davis, 30th for Tate Fogelman, 31st place goes to Dawson Cramp, 32nd for BJ McLeod, 33rd for Tanner Gray, 34th for Akinari Ogata, 35th place goes to Derek Cross, 36th for Chase Purdy, 37th for Norv Menning, 38th for Cody Roboff, 39th for Chris Wright, and finishing last in 40th place in tonight's race is, like I said, Corey Roper. So now let's go ahead and talk about the race overall and give you my score, or just talk about the race in general. I can't really give a score of this race, to be honest with you, because like I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, this is absolutely the craziest and most wackiest Truck Series race I have seen in a long time. It was really, really, really nuts. Honestly, that finishing order is not really the shows how good the race was or the best guys in the field. I think the best trucks in the field were guys like John Nemechek, Corey Heim, Austin Hill, even Stuart Friesen at times, even Charleston Osbar ended up finishing up front. Those are some of the best trucks, but at the end of the day, man, this race was absolutely nuts and absolutely wild. Everything that could happen. And these guys always in these Truck Series races race like it's the last lap of the Daytona 500. They always do this, especially in these late restarts. They race like it's the last lap. They race easy early in the race, and then they act like it's the last lap every time on these restarts, and they race crazy. And that's why we saw all the wrecks tonight. This is the third longest Truck Series race that we've ran ever. I think that they said the time for this race was 2 hours and 34 minutes. This is the third longest Truck Series race. Two of the longest races in Truck Series history have happened this year. Remember Daytona Road Course? It took almost 3 hours to get done because there were so many wrecks that happened at one. Again, I don't think the race overall was terrible. It wasn't as bad as Daytona Road Course because there's actually was good racing throughout the field throughout the first half run. But it got to where NASCAR was just taking off caution laps left, right, and center. And they shouldn't have just kept taking caution laps off. Again, this is not the worst truck race of the year. I would put this probably in the lower tier of the races so far. Well, actually, I don't know if I can put this in the lower tier because there was actually solid racing overall compared to Daytona Road Course where there was a lot of stupidity happening throughout the race. But yeah, that is my overall thoughts of the Truck Series race at Darlington. Next time we race for the Truck Series actually is going to be next week as we're going to be heading to Circuit of Americas for the second time the Truck Series is going to race. I expect that race to be crazy because of the fact that the Truck Series last time they raced on a road course was absolutely nuts and there were so many wrecks in that one. We might see the longest Truck Series race of all time. We'll have to see what happens going forward. So, anyway, that is going to be for tonight's Truck Series race review from Darlington International Speedway. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe to the channel, turn notifications so you be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support my Patreon as well. Links description below for that, and comment your thoughts on tonight's race. What are your thoughts on tonight's race? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know your score below in the comments, and congratulate Sheldon Creed on winning tonight's race here at Darlington International Speedway. Anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great and awesome NASCAR content. Take care, everybody.